Hey Ayurveda Every Day with Talya. Hi, it's Talya. So today I want to talk to you about 5 ways to beat sugar cravings because somebody in our community asked how to do this. And also, I know, most of us are quarantined right now, sheltered in place. And I think many of us have turned to cooking as a way to soothe ourselves, also kind of out of necessity because maybe we're not able to go to restaurants right now, and maybe getting to go food is not top of your list. So a lot of us are cooking more. And I just know for myself, some of the first things that I made were like a batch of raw Snickers, which I make out of dates and cashews and, a raw cacao powder. Like it's technically really good for you dessert, but I've made so many desserts in the past 2 weeks, and I feel okay about it because I love sweet. Sweet is a very important taste for me, and I'm going to get into that for you so you can understand if it's an important taste for you. Um, but it's a comfort food for me, and so but I also have pretty great self control, and I almost never overeat anything, but specifically sweets. I'm very lucky in that way, and it's also something I taught myself how to do. And it's something I can teach you how to do too. Maybe not in this Facebook Live right now, but some other time in one of my courses. So I want to talk about 5 different ways that you can beat sugar cravings. But the first one is I want to talk about the taste of sweet, because the taste of sweet in Ayurveda is a very, very important taste. It is the taste that encompasses all of our macronutrition. So your carbohydrates are sweet, your proteins are sweet, your fats are sweet. So it's really this broad, sweeping kind of category of taste. And the action that happens when you eat the taste of sweet, I'm not talking about sugar right now, like white sugar is not what I'm talking about. I mean, literally the taste is it it gives you energy, and it builds your tissues. It like builds you up. So when somebody wants to gain a lot of weight, like say an actor for an acting role, right? A nutritionist would be smart to be like, well, you should definitely eat a lot of sugar, or sugar with fat, like ice cream. I don't remember what the actor was, but I remember reading that he would microwave Ben and Jerry's and just drink it as his way to gain weight for his role. I was like, that's actually really smart, sugar and fat. But all that glucose will not be able to be absorbed into the cells, and it will become too much, right? Your blood sugar levels will go up. But I digress. The taste of sweet it's about building energy and building tissue, which is a good thing if you're somebody who's really busy, if you do a lot for your family, if you do a lot for your business. Those of you who are lighter and colder, like you're a vata predominant kind of person like myself, or you're hot and driven and ambitious, so you've got a lot of pitta as part of your constitution. You are specifically balanced by the taste of sweet, because not only does it give you energy and build your tissues, it's also very grounding. And this is why we turn to sweet so much for comfort, because a lot of times when we are seeking comfort, we're kind of out of our minds in some way, right? We're anxious, we're sad, we might be avoiding difficult feelings. We might be trying to fill a void, emotional or otherwise, especially right now. Like if you're like me, I mean, I live alone. Luckily, I have really sweet neighbors, but I'm like, lockdown is real. And I'm an introvert, actually, with a very adorable personality. So, just kidding. So, people don't think I'm an introvert, but I totally am. But even for me, I'm like, this is a lot of time spent alone. So, sweet sometimes fills that void. But it's so important to know when you need the taste of sweet, because sometimes you really actually need it. According to Ayurveda, it's like that's the taste that you need to ground yourself, to comfort yourself, to really root down into your root chakra, into your legs. And, you know, a great expression of that in yoga is like all the standing poses. Standing poses, in a certain sense, like also cultivate this taste of sweet because they really get you into your root. So, with this explanation, you know, the taste of sweet is really expanded way beyond sugar. Then we're talking about all whole grains, all dairy, all proteins, all fats, nuts and seeds, root vegetables, heavy squashes. I mean, it's really expansive. So I know that the person who asked this question is like, duh, like these are good foods for me. That wasn't my question. It's asking about sugar. But I just want to first say, like, sometimes you have to honor that your body is craving sugar. And instead of giving yourself actually sugar as the reaction or the response to the craving, I still want you to be thinking in your mind of like, gosh, this sugar craving really isn't going away. Let me just put my hands on my heart, or put one hand on my belly, one hand on my heart. I'm going to close my eyes. I'm going to take a deep breath, or maybe 5 deep breaths. And I'm just going to ask myself, like, what is my body really asking me for? And you may get an emotional response where you're like, I'm just really sad. I'm really grieving. Or you might be like, I need grounding. Like, all I've been eating are salads and soups because I'm so paranoid of gaining weight. I haven't like given myself any real sustenance for days. And so then you can turn to one of these broader topics of the taste of sweet, like, you know, I've got a sweet potato baking in the oven right now that I'm going to have for my late lunch, whatever. So, you know, play with the idea that sweet is so much beyond sugar, and sometimes you really need that taste. So, my number 2, how to beat sugar cravings is, what if you're just thirsty? So when you're having kind of these uncontrollable sugar cravings, especially if they happen at the end of the day, after dinner, before bed, you really might be dehydrated or just thirsty. And so drink some water. And if it's not enough to just drink water, or you're just like, I don't want water, I want sugar, you know, make yourself a tea that you could sweeten, like a licorice root tea, would be really ideal for somebody who's cold and dry, because it's warming and it's wet. Or somebody who runs really hot, you could make a marshmallow root infusion. I think I'll post that recipe into our Facebook group, Ayurveda Every Day with Talya. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you can join our Facebook group. You're always invited, and you can find some pretty cool resources and recipes in the file section of our Facebook group. Another thing that, like, if you're kapha predominant, or you're just feeling really heavy and you've got a lot of this wet, earthy, you know, muddy energy, you could make something like coriander, cumin, fennel seed tea. This would be good for everybody across the board in terms of, you know, some digestive support. Maybe boil, when you take the hot water, maybe boil ginger in your water and then pour it over the equal portions of cumin, coriander, and fennel seed. Let it steep for 5 or 10 minutes, and then you could sweeten it with something like monk fruit sweetener or liquid stevia. So that's actually a tool that I use quite a bit. I'm Vata predominant, Kapha secondary, and so and I can definitely vacillate between the two quite a lot. And there's one other thing I'll say about that, which I will go into deeper detail in next week in the Detox Your Body with Ayurveda Bootcamp. So excited, it starts on Monday. But I will often kind of meet myself in the middle of like, okay, I have a craving for sweet. I can tell that I'm thirsty. Water's not going to cut it right now. So I will make like a cumin, coriander, fennel seed tea, and then I'll sweeten it either with maple syrup, or if I'm just already feeling like, no, I've had enough sugar today, like even it's in the form of fruit or dates or like my raw Snickers, you know, that's all healthy ingredients, but still very concentrated sweet. I'll use liquid stevia, or I'll really push myself and be like, you know what? I don't need it to be sweet. I want to go to an opposite taste, which brings me to point number 3. Turn to the taste of bitter. So bitter is the taste in Ayurveda that is the antithesis to sweet. So when you've got really high levels of sugar in your blood, for example, bitter is the taste that you want to focus on to detox your body of that excess sugar. It's literally like the yin and yang in terms of taste. So here's some examples of bitter. Um, Aloe vera juice is one of our most nourishing bitters. So if you are somebody who runs really hot, you've got a lot of inflammation, or you've been dealing with a lot of inflammatory symptoms lately, like say acne or um, anything that ends in itis, that aloe vera juice can help to calm and soothe the excess heat that's in your body. But its primary taste is bitter, so it's also going to help eliminate and remove, like, you know, kind of the gunk that makes us crave sugar sometimes, like yeast or just too much sugar in the blood, because sometimes there's a lot of sugar in the blood. Like, what do you want after you have a brownie? Another brownie. So aloe vera juice is kind of a pattern interrupter in that way, where you can be like, no, oh, actually this bitter feels really good. Wow, like, oh wow, I can really get into that taste. Now, if you absolutely hate the taste of bitter, you can find aloe vera juice. There's a brand called Real Aloe. That's my favorite brand of aloe juice, actually. And they make one called super juice. So it's aloe vera juice with like tart cherry, cranberry, and a couple other antioxidant fruits. The sugar content is still super low, but it tastes more like a fruit juice. So that's a way you could do it. But again, I digress. Um, Another, because it's not all about aloe vera juice. You could mix aloe vera juice with, some other juice to just cut it. Like if you're like, I just can't handle it, you could cut it with something like apple or pineapple juice, but then you're still getting quite a bit of sugar, so I don't recommend that. But more other things that are bitter are things like dark leafy greens, where if with every meal, even if you just did it for one day, you can go to, when you go to the market or in your garden or whatever, just getting like a big bag of greens that you can throw into a pot of, boiling water, this much water at the base of a pan, put a cover on it. In 1 minute, it's done, wilted dark leafy greens. You could eat that with everything. So bitter is a really good thing to use as a tool to intercept the sugar craving. And another it's not necessarily the taste of sour, although that always is a good taste. Um, it's for liquefying, anything that isn't moving. So if you're constipated, liquefying your stool so that it actually leaves your body. But apple cider vinegar is, there's just, I don't remember exactly what it is about it. I don't remember if it's the hydrochloric acid or just the neutralizing pH. But there's definitely something about apple cider vinegar that really helps curb sweet cravings. And I learned that so early on in my Ayurvedic studies. Because, when I came to Ayurveda, I came to this medicine, this science, because I was at a yoga teacher training, becoming a yoga teacher, and I broke out in psoriasis, which is an autoimmune disorder of the skin, in the middle of my teacher training. Like literally woke up covered in this crazy rash that didn't fully go away for 17 years. Although it is gone now, and I really only used Ayurveda, and emotional healing, of course, to heal my skin. But one of my first conversations with my practitioner was, um, you know, I'm not able to not eat sweet. Like, that doesn't work for me. I have such a sweet tooth. I love sweets so much, which is still true about me. That's why I love to write recipes for all kinds of desserts. If you have any of my cookbooks, this is the one I really recommend that you grab if you don't have it already. Um, I have so many awesome like alternative to sugar desserts that are just amazing for you. On my website, I've got an ebook called Guiltless Indulgence. It's 47 alternative dessert recipes, all Ayurveda infused. But you can see, if you study the dessert recipes that I write, you'll really start to see, like, oh, she always adds spices. Oh, like there's never white sugar in any of this. It's always from dates or maple syrup or raw honey. Like, it's from intelligently sourced sweeteners that, ultimately bring healing to the body. And in the meantime, while you have a sugar craving, is such a better choice than white sugar, because white sugar is going to spike vata, pitta, and kapha. It's going to increase all three of those doshas and just make you feel ultimately pretty crappy. So apple cider vinegar in hot water is amazing. You can put a little bit of lemon or lime in there as well. Sometimes I'll even put a little bit of raw honey when I want something kind of sour. I still want sweet, but I'm trying to use sour to curb my sweet craving. And with the virus that's happening in our world right now, it is so highly recommended for lung health that you do drink warm or hot water throughout the day. So I've been loving it with apple cider vinegar, and I've been drinking that all day myself. And then number 5, so apple cider vinegar was my number 4. Number 5 is you might not be getting enough protein when you are really kind of consumed with sugar cravings. It can be where again, kind of that idea of your body is looking for a way to ground. It's looking for sustenance, but the brain interprets it as a craving for sugar, when really it's a craving for energy or grounding or nourishment. I was going to say sustenance again because it's such a good word. So, if you're really dealing with sugar cravings, I recommend that you eat protein with every meal. Even if it's something as simple as like, oh, you've got a bowl of, brown rice and some vegetables. Crumble some toasted seaweed on top of that, because seaweed is a protein. Put a couple tablespoons of pumpkin seeds on top, or sunflower seeds, another protein that when you mix it with the grain helps you create a complete protein. For some people, animal protein, even if it's very rare, like once a week, even once a month, can do a lot to curb sweet cravings if the sugar craving is coming from really like a lack or a depletion in the blood. So again, just to use myself as an example, when I was first studying Ayurveda and starting to incorporate it into my everyday life, I was a waitress, and I was actually, this was before that, but I understood it once I was really studying Ayurveda. So I was a vegetarian, and I was a waitress at a sushi restaurant. Woohoo! Mobo Sushi, if anyone remembers that back in the day. It's still here, actually. It's still here. I hope it survives this shelter in place. But I was a waitress at Mobo Sushi, and we served beef teriyaki. And I never ate it myself, but anytime somebody ordered it and I was walking over to deliver it to my customer, I would drool, and it started to become kind of uncontrollable. Like, I was like literally like needing to suck my drool back into my mouth. And and I started sort of having and I was so out of balance at this point in my life. Everybody, like, it was just crazy. I was so out of balance. And I remember being like, you know what? I was a vegetarian for 7 years, and I was at a Mexican restaurant with my friend Susan, and she had ordered like beef tacos or whatever, and I was just drooling again. She's like, have a bite, just have a bite. And it was almost this instant, like, oh my God, that was exactly what I needed. Like, it was so fortifying for me. And so I only had that one bite of red meat, and I believe it was like, it's the blood building B12, aspect of the meat that my body really needed. but I noticed that it really did help my sweet cravings that same day because I was such a sugar addict. And then just a few years later, when I found Ayurveda, it was suggested to me by my teacher that I use that same kind of idea, like turn to blood building foods that are really grounding. So even like steamed beets with protein. It doesn't only have to be an animal protein, but it's been my experience and the experience of many of my clients that some animal protein can also help curb constant or chronic sugar cravings. So just another thing for you to think about. And then I just have a few ideas for you. If like I said, this cookbook I think is really invaluable. And just because it's vegan, I mean, doesn't anyone can use that cookbook. You just add dairy, add animal protein to it if you want to. This was the very first plant-based Ayurvedic cookbook ever published, to my knowledge. And we did it on purpose because it was a lack in the cookbook market for Ayurvedic enthusiasts. But it's so versatile and it's such an excellent book, especially the desserts, as well as my book, my ebook, Guiltless Indulgence, which is on sale on my website, Talya's Kitchen. But here are some other alternative sweets that you could try turning to when you have sugar cravings, and I find that this really, really works. So one is what I already shared about the cumin, coriander, fennel seed tea. There is a recipe for that tea inside our Facebook group. So if you're watching this on Facebook, just go to the files section of our group and you'll see this recipe. Another one is the marshmallow root infusion, which I mentioned. I'm going to add it to the file section of our Facebook group once I get off this video. I'm pointing out this cookbook and talking about my other one because raw desserts like a medjool date that you open up like a little book, you take the seed out, put some raw almond butter inside and like roll it in a little bit of coconut or a few goji berries or raisins or cacao nibs. It's like so satisfying. And then it's also protein and it's also grounding and it's also potassium and calcium and all these other really awesome elements that we need to feel good. Root vegetables. So at the end of the day is really the best time of day to have root vegetables for most of us, especially most of you who follow me are women over the age of 40. So we're all in sort of that hormonal shift of some kind. And so like a starchy carb like that at the end of the day is going to be the most complementary to your hormonal system. Sort of, I think I can say that generally speaking, than having it in the morning. So, I thought about having my sweet potato for breakfast today, but I was like, I don't want it that early. I want something more anchoring early. That's why I'm going to have it probably for dinner. Oh, I dropped my paper. And then, but yeah, root vegetables, baked or roasted. Same with winter squash. Like one of my favorite things is kabocha squash. You leave the skin on. You need a really good knife for this, but you leave the skin on. It's more of a fall, winter thing anyway. But you slice it into like little moons, toss it with coconut oil or ghee and a bunch of seeds, spices as seeds like cumin seed, fenugreek seed, mustard seed. Toss it and bake that. Oh my God, it's like candy, actually. And then, of course, fresh fruit. That is nature's candy. So, sweet tangerines, sweet berries, or they could be, they don't even have to be that sweet, but that will satisfy your sweet craving more than if they're, sour or astringent. I just bought a pineapple for this very purpose of like when I'm having a sweet craving, that's going to be my candy. And I'm going to eat it with spirulina, which is a complete protein from plant. It's an algae, but I love to dip sweet, juicy fruit into spirulina as a way to get my fruit, get my that sugar that I love, but with a grounding, blood sugar balancing element that's also giving me magnesium and trace minerals and all that. So spirulina is really invaluable. And then even taking like any kind of milk, whether it's dairy or plant-based milk, and warming it up on the stove, adding things like saffron, cardamom, a little bit of maple syrup, like that will do so much for your total body health and give you an experience of sweet. So I hope that this helped you. The 5 different ways to beat sugar cravings, as well as giving you a fairly comprehensive education on the taste of sweet, as according to Ayurveda. Of course, they have so much more to say about this. Oh, one other thing I'll add to my list of alternatives, I had it this morning and it was amazing, is Chive Prash. So if you haven't heard me talk about Chive Prash, I won't go so into it right now because this video is already so much longer than I meant it to be. But Chive Prash is a supercharged Ayurvedic herbal jam. It's antioxidant. It's got so many different amazing herbs, including ashwagandha and cinnamon and cardamom. It has ghee and raw honey and usually some kind of jaggery, but it's literally like this beautiful rejuvenative jam. And the one that I sell on my website is the company is called Komal Herbals, and the Chive Prash is called Prash. OMG, it is kind of like crack. It's so good. But you also take 1 spoonful and you don't really want more. You're like, oh, that was so good. And you really feel fortified by it. So what I've been doing lately, because it's also got a lot of vitamin C in it from the amla berry, is, I do my morning hydration, and then when I have my first hunger, I have a spoonful of the Chive Prash on an empty stomach when I know my body's going to digest it. And then about 10 minutes later, I have my rooting, grounding breakfast that is definitely some kind of protein and fat and fiber. But then throughout the day, if I'm craving sweet, I could use the Chive Prash again. But I feel really balanced by it, having it, kind of early on in my day, buffered by hydration and then really smart morning nutrition. So, suggestion for you. I hope that makes a difference for you. And I don't remember the name of the person who asked this question. I believe it was a man. What's his name? Charles? Anyway, I hope that you are seeing this video, whoever asked this question. And if you have not yet signed up for the Detox Your Body with Ayurveda Bootcamp, we start on Monday, April 6th, right here inside this Facebook group. We will also make it available outside of the Facebook group, but you've got to sign up for it. You can't just be in this Facebook group to experience it. You got to give your email so that I can send you all the daily PDFs and downloads and meditations and free gifts that will really help solidify the teachings and help you implement them each day of the boot camp. So the boot camp is so much fun, and I think we've been planning this forever. So I'm not doing this because I know that everybody's home. My team and I have been planning this boot camp since like last year. So I think it's pretty great timing in terms of what a beautiful community event this will be for all of us to focus on our health, our immunity, our longevity, to do it in community. I think it's going to be just such a gem of a gift at this particular time in history. So if you have not yet signed up, please sign up for the boot camp. I'll post the link to it underneath what I call my show notes for these videos. And thanks so much for watching. See you soon.